What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for watching and subscribing. We've got a great video for you guys today. I'm going to talk about destination hacks and how you can actually make some money off of the destination filters that, for the most part, let's be honest, kind of suck. Before we jump into this video, we wanted to give a quick shout out to our sponsor, Solo. Solo is an amazing app that just gets drivers more money, hands down. It gets you access to guaranteed earnings, expense tracking, and a lot of other really cool features. And on top of that, our viewers will get $10 just by signing up using the link in the description below. So check it out, guys. Well worth your time, and let's jump into it. So destination filters to me were one of the most maddening and frustrating things Uber ever did, because on paper I was like, oh yeah, this is a game changer. And then when they came out and it was like, man, this actually sucks. So when it came out, they were like, oh, destination filters are for commuting on your way home, picking up a nice lad or lass and they're headed towards your neighborhood. Here's what destination filters actually looked like. You would get 6,000 rides that were like kind of in the right direction, but really not at all. And so if you had the idea of like, well, I've maybe you live 30 minutes away and you're like, if I get home in an hour because I give 1 or 2 extra rides, that's great. The problem is it'll never be that. You'll get home in like 2 hours if you really do it that way, because you'll get like 18 $3 rides that like cut right, then cut left, but they still kind of like, let's say you're heading north, like they'll go a little bit northeast, a little bit northwest, and it'll start slowly taking you a really weird route. Now, occasionally I'll get lucky and get some good ones, and that's obviously awesome, but most often, like for me, and as a driver, I'm sure you guys can relate, like I was never doing this as like, oh, I work this job and I want to get 2 rides when I leave my job. I was like, no, I freaking drive for Uber and Lyft. So when I'm ready to head home, I'm not looking to give 7 or 8 extra rides. Like I'm looking to give like maybe 2, but ideally 1 that goes all the way back. So I tried it so many times and it really never did what I wanted to, but I found a few ways to use this where it really, really makes sense. Now, my favorite way is if you've got one of those, like give 3 rides in X amount of time in X zone bonus on Uber. So what I would always do, especially if it's in the morning, sorry, I hate when people say especially in the morning. This works very, very well. But what I would always do is I would start like a half an hour away from the airport. Now, obviously, if I'm not there by the time I'm trying to start the bonus, I'm not sweating it too much, because in general, it'll work almost anywhere unless you're like way, way out for some reason. But I set my destination towards the airport. Now, what happens is usually within my first 2 rides, I'm getting the airport. Now, sometimes if I'm too close to the airport, I don't set my destination towards the airport until the 2nd ride. The reason being is I want the 3rd ride to be a return trip from the airport. So the goal is to have the 2nd ride be essentially the ride to the airport. So ideally you give 1 quick ride, maybe a quick commute for someone to work, like 10-minute ride. And the 2nd ride, I want to get someone going to the airport. And that's usually where the destination filter works the best. So then what happens is, obviously, if you have the right rewards unlocked, that 3rd ride will bump you up in the airport queue. And as you drop someone off, you can a lot of times then get someone who's just getting there. And then you hit 3 rides very quick. You get your bonus. If you got any tips, you can hit some really nice earnings in like 1 hour doing this. So that's the #1 way I've always used it. Now, the 2nd way is kind of planning it around anticipated surges. So I use this a lot Friday and Saturday night. If it's midnight and I'm decently far away from where I know I want to be for a surge, I set the destination towards that surge area. But it kind of depends how far out I am, So I'm going to base it around, like with destination filters, I've noticed it's just a lot of shorter rides sometimes. Sometimes you get those 15 to 20 minute ones, but usually it's like 10-minute rides. So I can usually bump out 3 in like an hour. So if I'm a good hour away from the surge, I'm gonna probably set it at like 45 minutes and start driving towards it myself, and just hopefully I don't get a ride. And usually if I do, I kind of know where I'm at. You know, a lot of this is like tough for me to say because it's gonna depend on where you're at. But if I know where I'm at and I'm pretty confident that I'll get a ride in the right direction, I'll set it like 45 minutes out. If I'm way far out, 2 hours out, it'll usually get me there right when I need to be there. So that's the second best way I think you can use them. Now, the last way that I would say you can really use the destination filters is, like, I did this once and it wasn't the worst, it wasn't the best, but one time I was actually going on like a decently long trip. I think it was like a 6-hour drive. And so I was like, you know, I wonder how this will work. So what I did is I set the destination like 2 hours out with the idea of like, hey, let's pay my gas, you know, for this drive. And so I wanted to just make like 50 bucks. Obviously gas was way cheaper back then. It's like probably closer to when they just came out. And so it was very frustrating because, to be honest, like, not even just because I gave the rides did my ETA go up, but I mean, they took me again kind of like off the route I needed to be. So they would pull me off the highway so much that it was like so much time to then get back to the highway. So it did add 2 hours to my trip, but I kind of anticipated that, and I did make the 50 bucks and, you know, hypothetically paid my gas, hypothetically maybe ate into the gas even more, who knows. But that's the third way I would say you could use it. Really, the first two ways are the ways you want to really utilize. So anyways, hope you guys enjoyed this. Please like, share, comment, subscribe. Make sure you check out Solo, linked in the description. Get $10 just for signing up, and stay tuned for more updates.